Hello and welcome to another Simon Says Sci-Fi for the legend that is the Traveling TARDIS. And my topic today, I've written it down, it says, create our own sci-fi existence today. It's based on a conversation I was having with a friend who said, do you actually think we're living in a sci-fi existence now? And it just sort of made me think. After all, there are many stories that include aliens falling from the sky with the possible intent of taking over the planet. And there are more philosophical stories, aren't there? They're talking about more sophisticated worlds where everyone is free and healthy and at peace with each other, including some societies where the concept of money has been abolished. Oh, yes, abolished. Or at the very least that money doesn't have the importance that it has on Earth today. And so that is considered sci-fi. But I can tell you there were the likes of Sir Thomas More, who was writing in the 15th century. And he was the first person to write the word Utopia, which was an imaginary world. And he had this society set on an island where he imagined a complex, self-contained community in which people would share a common culture and a very happy way of life. And that was in the 15th century, so I can't really call that sci-fi. So what do I think now? So I think to myself, there are two phrases that come to mind. There's, we should learn from history. And also there's the phrase, truth is often more bizarre than the fiction. And there is a third phrase that comes to mind right now, and is, you can't make this stuff up. But let's sort of look back and think about what I've just said. Things do fall from the sky, and they fall from the sky regularly. Most of them are sort of meteorites or comets, but they're small and they break up in our atmosphere, and the planet is just covered in a fine dust. But occasionally something much larger comes through, and of course the big example is the meteor that hit planet Earth that wiped out the dinosaurs. Now, there are still people today in 2021 that believe that there were no such things as dinosaurs, and so therefore they don't believe there was no such thing as the meteor that changed the planet. Now, if we put those people just to one side, the reality is our planet, like all the planets in our solar system, bombarded with all sorts of material from outside the world, and so we just have to accept that that happens. And a more recent impact event, I think it's called, that is quite well known, is in 1908. A comet entered our atmosphere. It broke up, but there was a fragment that was about 66 feet long. It landed in Siberia, which is in Russia, and created quite a large crater. And there was a fireball with it, and the power of which wiped out 80 million trees, and it was felt, the seismic element of it was felt right across Europe. So that is proof that things do fall to Earth. And we just have to accept that that is a way of life, and that it could happen in science fiction, or, as I suggest today, it can happen as a fact. So where does that leave me now? Planet Earth is currently going through a pandemic. Now, there are lots of, quote, sci-fi stories where they involve plagues and other forms of pandemics. But this is a real one, and also if we look back in history, we've had several pandemics over many, many centuries. So what's left behind, especially today, is the entire globe is almost bankrupt, and there's economic chaos everywhere. And the main problem for everyone is, how are they going to pay their debts? And the governments of today are too busy, in my opinion, focusing on getting back to normal, whatever that was, But also it could mean getting back to normal is let's get back to where we were. But of course, where we were contributed to where we are. So we must think at things and see what the solutions can be. And I always think there is a much simpler way. I've often spoken about Friar Occam and Occam's razor. Occam's razor basically says, work out what your problem is, work out what solutions there can be, and in the end take the simplest version. And since March 2020, I've been saying the simplest answer to all the economic problems is that we write off the debt. Now, before you start running for your defibrillator, let me explain. Writing off the debt would be so much easier for everyone. And taking from the UK's perspective, so many companies are in so much debt despite the help that they've had from the government today, which I am not criticising. The government has helped, but in many ways it's left companies more and more in debt, and there's no way that they're going to be able to pay it back easily. So the answer is, dear government, do you allow your companies to fold, to collapse, and thereby increase unemployment, which is expensive? Or is it cheaper just to write off the debt that has been accrued during the lockdown period, and to give the companies a chance to try and revive and keep their staff on? Those staff will be paying taxes, and so the government in the long term will get a benefit. That's my explanation of writing off the debt. Now, if you've still got palpitations, can I just note to those who claim that they've studied economics, Adam Smith is considered the father of economics, and he was a great advocate of capitalism, but he did stress that it wasn't a perfect system. And also there are outside influences that would mean any government of any day would have to step in and do what is necessary. And we remember in the UK, our Chancellor of Exchequer said exactly that. I will make sure that we will do whatever is necessary. And sometimes that means taking action that is against your political philosophy. But sometimes it is necessary. So for those of you who still feel that I've swallowed some bee and that I have no idea what I'm talking about, let's go back in history a bit more. I draw to your attention, and I've got to look at it, here we go. There is a phrase in Latin called excludit debitum, which in Latin means cancel debt, and that's been found in documents dated way back to 700 BC. And also if we look at ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, in the year 594 BC, there was a chap called Solon, and he was the Archon of Athens, and an Archon was a sort of high judicial officer. And he cancelled all public debt, all private debt, and he also cancelled the practice of debt slavery. Now, in doing so, he managed to calm down what was basically an uprising, because everybody was panicking, and because firstly it was all unfair, unjust. Everybody was in debt, and of course slavery was rife. So in doing this action, in cancelling all the debt, what happened in the long term, well, not long term, quite medium term, is that the Athenian economy grew and grew and grew and helped Greece become the great empire that it was. Now, is that what we need today? Do we need to cancel out the debt? That's my opinion. I think it is true. Is it easy to do? I think the answer is yes, but there'll be those who will try and convince you that it's far too complicated and it'll ruin this and it'll ruin that. The answer is, think of things simply. Allow people to get back to work. Allow people to earn money. They will then pay you the taxes that you require, and everything will get back to normal quite quickly. Well, have I been talking science fiction, or have I been talking debt? Well, I've been talking debt, of course, but have I been talking science fiction, or have I been talking fact? Well, that's up for you to decide. So until the next Simon Says Sci-Fi, just have a think.